I was always accused of being a freelancer, Rod. That was the word that they used for me. He's a freelancer. He doesn't play within the parameters of the defense. But in reality, I watched so much film from all the days that my dad was training me and teaching me. I got so caught up into watching film and getting lost into film that I was actually just operating off of my feelings while I was out there on the field. So it was, I guess if you didn't understand it the way that I understood it, I guess you would interpret it as freelancing. But now that I'm older and I coach and I've taught so many successful players, I started to realize that they, as you mentioned, were giving me backhanded compliments. Really, freelancer, even though it was being used to diminish and minimize what my capabilities were, it was ultimately something that they couldn't comprehend how I was able to do the things that I was able to do. And since they weren't able to do that, they would give more of a negative connotation of what it represented versus a positive.
Welcome to the Growth Life Podcast, where we celebrate individuals and their stories about moments where they were courageous enough to embrace uncertainty, brave enough to love diversity, and smart enough to realize that they don't know everything. The Growth Life Podcast shares stories of growth in all areas: careers, mindset, relationships, wealth, and health.
Hi, this is Rod Hairston, and welcome to the Growth Life, where we're courageous enough to embrace uncertainty, brave enough to love diversity, and smart enough to know we don't know everything. But we have a man on today that knows a little bit of, he knows everything.
No, not at all.
No, he does. And you guys will see exactly what I'm talking about. We're going to reframe genius today on this podcast. I want to introduce to you my friend, one of the best athletes I've ever met and I've ever seen play, and I had the opportunity to meet later, and that's Mr. LaVar Arrington. Well, let's talk about, you guys know him. You can Google him and see. He's one of the hardest hitting linebackers in NFL. Again, Penn State, one of the best college football players in the world. I don't want to get into this massive bio because the guy is already famous, and we're very, very happy to have him. What I do want to get into is I want you guys to go check him out. Go check out his bio. Go check out how he was one of the best college football players to ever play the game, one of the best NFL players to ever play the game. What's more, but again, you can see that. That's debatable. Everybody can argue that. What I want to get into is the brain on this man. And I want to start the debunking of this so-called athlete. This sort of I like to call it this little. It's almost, people think they're giving you a compliment, but they're not. It's like a backhanded compliment and really an insult. And we're going to talk today. LaVar and I have become really good friends. We're working together. I really love that I get a chance at this stage of my life to meet a great friend and somebody who is helping me do what I always wanted to do. And that's just go back and reframe how beautiful the mind is and how the mind uses the body versus the other way around. And we're going to start something called the Warrior Woke, right? Warrior Woke. And Warrior Woke is, I'm not going to go into the business model. You guys will all get that opportunity. But what I want to tell you what it means. What Warrior Woke means is when you think about the ultimate warrior, which I believe LaVar represents, and why this partnership makes perfect sense for me. The warrior, the mental aspects of the warrior was the most important. Okay, so again, when we look at things, we fall asleep, we get hypnotized, and we start thinking about the physical presence and the muscles. No. The body is just a representative of the mind, always has been for every athlete, every gladiator. Again, regardless to what you think or regardless to what you were hypnotized to believe. The mental aspect, the energetic aspect, right? The energy that flows through that warrior. The ability to almost impact people with his presence when he walks into the room without saying a word. That's energy, my friends. The emotional intelligence. How do I now focus on the proper things, stay outside of uncertainty and perform at the highest level? And then the physical mind, of course, right, which is a culmination of those. How does this play out in my physical body? Some of the gifts that I might be blessed with height or size or whatever else. But again, you've seen plenty of people with a beautiful body, beautiful capability, and not be able to perform at a high level. And you've seen people with that physical, some of the physical incapabilities that do things that we don't understand. So I'm here to argue that when you find people that's got all four at a high level, listen, because the beautiful thing about it, my friends, is that the mental, the energetic, and the emotional can be developed. It can be developed. It can be fostered. It could actually, at any age of your life, you can take that to the next level. And then people will be wondering why you can do physical things or things on a physical level they don't understand. So I'm gonna interview my friend tonight, and through the interview, you're gonna hear a lot more about his experiences. And I want you to really listen to some of the things that this man has been able to accomplish, but most importantly, listen to how he did it, right? Listen to what went on in his mind. And I'm here to argue that every great athlete out there, whether they know it or not, whether they consciously do it like LaVar did, or they unconsciously do it, is still the same, right? Whether I can unconsciously figure out a math problem and call me a genius, I don't know how I did it, or I can consciously do it. It's the same, okay? It's the same. I'm a genius. One person developed it. The other person, they developed it unconsciously, or it was passed on, but they use it. And so part of it is some of you are going to ask you to use your genius. Some of you are going to ask you to start, we're going to ask you to start developing your genius. So let's get into this. So LaVar, thank you for joining me, my friend.
Pleasure. Pleasure's all mine.
Yeah, I could go. I got your bio here, and it'll take up the whole call going through this bio. So I think as you tell your story, I would love for you to kind of, again, just this is an opportunity for you to kind of brag on your intelligence. I begin because, again, what LaVar teaches is that we all have it. So LaVar, tell us a little bit about your career, but let's start with high school.
All right.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Where do you want to start, man?
Let's start with you modeling your brother.
Okay. So from this small place, some call Titletown. It's a place in Pennsylvania, the western side, that they say is the city of steel, coal mines and factories and different things like that. The home of Heinz, a place called Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So that was a joke, of course. You know, we're actually taking a back seat to New England right now in football, but we do win a lot of championships, and I'm from there. But you know, more importantly, the foundation of what actually began to shape and mold who I became as a high school player was based off of the hard-nosed, blue-collar, lunch pail, hard hat culture that Pittsburgh represented. And so I always wanted to be a great football player, and for no other reason than I was acclimated to the Steel Curtain at a very young age. And so that became an obsession to want to be like Mean Joe Green or Dwight White or L.C. Greenwood or any of the other great players that played for that daunted Steel Curtain defense in the 70s. So, you know, I ended up watching my older brother, as you mentioned, in high school, and it actually turned my attention away from defense purely to wanting to be an offensive-minded player, and that was just based upon how amazing he looked doing it. And he was always a hero of mine. He was 5'9", 5'10", wasn't a big guy, but his ability to move and change directions and do things that, like you said, just made it look easy. It really, really inspired me and motivated me to want to be pretty much just like him. So interestingly enough, I grew to 6'3" in the 6th grade. We'll get into that whole ideology of how that happened, but mentally speaking, I wanted to be 6'3". I ended up getting a 6'3" in the 6th grade, and I never grew another inch. So maybe I should have gone into my mental database and said I wanted to be 6'5", and I might have got a couple more inches, but I did grow to 6'3". So the interesting thing was when I became a freshman in high school, my brother was just graduating. So I was coming in, he was going out. That team was one of the best high school assembled football teams probably in the history of high school football. They missed the playoffs with my brother's team. Ironically enough, they missed the playoffs because of one key loss during the course of their season. I wanted to come in and fill my brother's shoes, his shoes as a starter at 6'3". At 6'3", 190 pounds I was as a freshman, and my brother was 5'10" and maybe 160 on a good day. So he was a smaller guy. And everything that he did, I tried to emulate. I tried to model myself after it, and having great role models in my quarterback, Kasparovich, having great leadership in our coaching staff, I developed pretty quickly, Rod, and it led to an amazing, probably the most amazing year of football in my life was my freshman year of high school. We ended up going 15-0. It was the only time in my career that I was a champion. We won the state title. We beat the legendary Central Bucks West, which was a powerhouse team from the eastern side of the state. But the things that I learned my freshman year of high school were so valuable and went such a long way in my development as a human. And the one thing that I learned very quickly that year, playing with all of those seniors, was being more of a mental human and being a person who strives to be a great human actually correlated to being a pretty phenomenal football player. And so I was blessed enough, I was fortunate enough to have that tone set by teammates. It's one thing to get it from home. And I come from a military background with my family, 3 generations of Army in the World Wars and in Nam. And so I had a different mindset altogether to begin with, just based upon my father and my grandfathers, both of them, and their approach to life. But with that being said, I learned a lot from my teammates that freshman year. So it ended up leading to me having an All-American career in high school. I was actually rated the highest player coming out of high school in 1997. I was named the Parade All-American Player of the Year. I was a USA Today Pennsylvania Player of the Year. I won the Bobby Dodd Downtown Running Backs Award, which was basically, and still to this day, is considered to be the Heisman of high school football. So I guess it did turn into an illustrious career, you could say, in terms of what my high school career ended up being.
Okay, this is awesome. And what I want people to get from this is, again, a young man that had a model, but used his mind. And I've had an opportunity to talk to LaVar at length and really long conversations, and I listened. And I really want to add just a bit to it. LaVar modeled his brother, but he believed that he could go beyond that. He believed in himself. He didn't model. He loved and idolized his brother, but he thought that he could take that same system, put it in his mind, and he told his mind, not only can you be bigger, but you could actually go beyond that. You have the capability. Why? Because I have a target. So he used modeling as a target. And what he did, what a lot of people don't do, is they think they're modeling, but they're pretending, because they never take on the self-belief that goes with the modeling. And I want everybody to kind of get that. Number two, he had an identity already, and his identity was already established. And he, again, you think about it from his father, his grandfather, his brother, he started seeing himself as a warrior. So again, that shaped, the identity was there. He had the models around him, and he found things to justify and validate who he wanted to be and needed to be in high school. Second thing I'd like you to do, so he broke all the records as a tailback at 6'3", 190 pounds. But then this superior running back went and became one of the best defensive players in college. Let's talk about that. So you went to Penn State, worked, and your coach was the great Joe Paterno. Tell us a little bit about how you went from offense to defense and what you had to do mentally to make that transformation.
Well, the interesting thing about my father was he lost both his feet in Vietnam.
I knew that.
And so when you talk about the interpretation of what it is that you want to accomplish and what you want to do and the model in which that fits, everything that I had to do that I learned with my father was based upon visualization.
Wow.
My father would put on tapes where he couldn't go out and run around with me and go through drills with me physically. He would put on tapes, and I could just recall always watching VHS tape after VHS tape, from Eric Dickerson to Tony Dorsett to Mike Singletary to Lawrence Taylor to Greg Lloyd. You name it, we watched them. And my father just used to tell me, watch how he's running. Watch Eric Dickerson's running technique. You're built like Eric Dickerson. Run like him. And that's what he would say. And because, he didn't tell me exactly, get your knees high and stretch your legs out and kick your butt and pump your arms a certain type of way, I would actually get to the point where I watched the film on those guys so closely that I would visualize myself executing it the same way I saw them on television doing it. So it actually got to the point of me mimicking what I saw them doing every time I went out on the field. And it didn't, I got good enough at it where I was able to utilize it at different positions. So in high school, I was playing every position but line. I played everything: receiver, tight end, fullback, quarterback, safety, outside backer, inside backer, defensive end. I played pretty much everything in high school. And it was really just based off of me visualizing what it is that I wanted to do when I was at those particular positions. So when I got to Penn State, I wanted to be a linebacker. I didn't want to play offense in college. I felt like there's a lot of politics connected to playing offense. And on defense, you always, especially at linebacker, you always have an opportunity to get action within a play. That became my deal, is I want to get as much action as I possibly can while I'm out here playing this game. So I wanted to go to a place where there was reverence for the position that I was playing. And what better place to go to than the place that their moniker is Linebacker U. So I committed to Penn State. And what I realized very quickly is a lot of the things that you do at different positions, Rod, is interchangeable. So I started realizing that if I played linebacker the same way that I played tailback, that got me to 4,000 yards rushing in high school, that in theory, I would end up exactly where the running back was going based upon reading what's going on in front of me the same way that that running back is reading it. So it became interchangeable. And I actually was, if it was a wide play and it looked as though the running back was pacing the line, I would be pacing the line just as much as he's pacing the line. And so I'm sitting there and I'm feeling like he's going to cut back. I could feel the cutback coming because if I was running the ball, there's a strong possibility that this is the moment that I'm probably going to. I was always accused of being a freelancer, Rod. That was the word that they used for me. He's a freelancer. He doesn't play within the parameters of the defense. It just got to a point of where in reality, I watched so much film what your opponent is from all the days that trying to understand what he's training me and teaching me. I got so caught up into watching film and what it is that into film that I was actually just operating off of my feelings while I was out there on the field. And you anticipate it was, you start to get to a point. I guess if you didn't understand it the way that I understood it, I guess you would interpret it as freelancing. But now that I'm older and I coach and I've taught so many successful players, I started to realize that they, as you mentioned, were giving me backhanded compliments. Really, freelancer, even though it was being used to diminish and minimize what my capabilities were, it was ultimately something that they couldn't comprehend how I was able to do the things that I was able to do. And since they weren't able to do that, they would give more of a negative connotation of what it represented versus a positive. You didn't give me, he's a great student of the game and studies so much that he's able to do these things that are a little bit ahead of the time and place for this game. He's a better athlete, and so, but it's okay. I was able to.
I want to jump in here because there's a couple things I want people to get from this. Number one, the visualization. So I just learned something there. Visualization, there is zero difference to the unconscious mind on things that are visualized consistently and are real. So the unconscious mind cannot tell the difference, especially if you do it consistently with a huge level of belief and identity. So that's really, really, really powerful for the mental aspect. So again, here's another example of someone visualizing every position, looking for the connectedness. That's the Da Vinci principle. Da Vinci would visualize everything because he knew everything was connected. So it was never any wasted learning. If you do that in the context of your business or your career or the things that's important for you, it's going to be very powerful. Second thing, I want you to recognize that LaVar was unconsciously competent, and when that to other people, they thought because if anybody can do that, there's such contrast in what my ability or what I've seen other people do. He's almost lucky, or he's unconscious, and that's what really what they're saying when they say you're an athlete, that you're unconscious, that you didn't develop it because they didn't know how he developed it. So again, that's where the insult comes in, is they don't know how he developed it. He used one of the most powerful principles in the world, and that's visualization. And he used he visualized from an identity as a warrior. He didn't visualize to get something. He visualized to become more of what he already was. Right? So that's why identity is so very important. Please listen to the story, and I want you to get it. Also, think about this. He also started recognizing that what LaVar was probably best at, in my opinion, and being a Cowboy fan, I didn't like him for this reason, is anticipation. He could anticipate. He put my favorite quarterback out of football. Right? Anticipating.
I do not.
His anticipation was so freaking on that he ran. And if you ever if you YouTube it and you look at Troy Aikman, Troy Aikman's last hit.
All you got to do is put Troy and LaVar. It's going.
Yeah, that's right. Put Troy and LaVar, and you'll see that he runs like he's running like a cartoon character is running so fast. You don't believe it's real time speed because anticipation. He knew where it was going to be. So I want all of you guys to kind of think about the art of anticipating comes down to your ability to identify and visualize. Identify and visualize every role that you need to play for what you want to accomplish. Tell us more about, let's transition from how does one take the identity of being one of the greatest players in Penn State's history, right? One of the greatest player, the greatest linebacker in the history of Penn State, which is one of the best football dynasties in the United States, and that's the world, to going into taking that into the pros and being effective. How do you transition that identity?
I just think you continue to build on it, Rod.
Tell me more about that. How do you do that?
I think from my perspective, it's you build the cycle of how you approach what your approach is. Preparation, when preparation meets opportunity, the one who's prepared is the one who is going to seize the moment and that opportunity. And I learned that pretty quickly. So as I got into the NFL, the one thing that you had to realize very quickly was the game was a lot faster. So I always say when people ask me what is the difference between level to level, I always say when you go from college or from high school to college, a college practice is as fast as a high school game, right? When you go from college to the pros, a pro practice is as fast as a college game, right? So imagine guys are fast like game day in a practice. So the approach is really, you have to adjust and adapt very quickly to the fact that there are people that are bigger than you, much bigger than you, 300 pounds, 6'7", 6'5", 6'8", that can move just as good as you can. And so now it turns from, okay, I could do this in high school. I couldn't do as much as that in college, but I could do this and it translated and it worked. And it's like, okay, I could do this in college, but I can't do that in the pros, but I can do this. It translates and it works. So then it turns into that whole thought process of narrow and deep versus wide and shallow. You want to take what your strengths are and you want to really, really, really develop what you're able to do, especially physically. You want to try to develop that as much as you possibly can, because I ultimately believe if you're blessed enough to make it to the pro level, more often than not, you're going to deal with a lot of intelligent players once you make it to that point. So they're studying you, they're breaking you down, they're looking at your tendencies. Do you carry your hands high? Do you carry your hands low? Do you what's your first step? What does he like to do? Those are all the things that you're able to possibly get over on guys at other levels. But in the pros, now that warrior mentality that you talk about becomes very, very evident and very apparent, because you cannot avoid some of the things that are inevitable in a full contact sport at the pro level. You just can't, because it's going to come your way. You're not going to be fast enough always to be able to dictate or elude. So you have to know, what are you going to do? How are you going to handle yourself when you find yourself in different situations out there on the field?
That's incredible. So I want to kind of break that down, because I love this. So there's a term in NLP called future pace. I'm going to use it a little bit different here. So what happens is that a lot of us like to live, especially if we come from this level of celebrity. So you kind of think about it. One of the best high school players in the United States goes and becomes the best college football linebacker. Number 2 draft pick to the pros, a Heisman Trophy runner-up as a defensive player. I want you to really think about this. And now you live on that, and that becomes your identity. And I remember we did a Division I football coach. We coached a couple of Division I football teams. And one of the things that I remember the coach saying to me is that the first day the players got there, he said all of these boys were the big fish in their little pond. And that's their identity. And they're getting ready to get a rude awakening.
Very rude.
Because these are all big fish, all from little ponds. Yeah. And there's some fish in here that came from big ponds, and they were big fish. And they're getting ready to meet these players. Yeah. And it's going to, and we're going to have a bunch of them quit today. We have a bunch of them. Some are going to quit and stay. Some are going to quit and leave. And he goes, watch and see what happens here. And so I want to just finish saying this, because what LaVar just told us is his mind always went forward. He would future pace. So he would say, okay, all right, what am I going to need to be in the future? What am I going to need to be? And listen to what he said, going narrow and deep versus wide. What does that mean? Well, he started really recognizing that there's 4 laws of focus. And you guys have heard me talk about this before. What you focus on, you find. What you focus on grows. What you focus on seems real, and ultimately what you focus on, you become. Now, why is that important? Now, think about this. You're going from college to the pros. Now you're going to the elite of the elite. If you are not at least unconsciously competent, you won't make it in the pros. You'll never play a game. So you got to be unconsciously competent. The best players in the world are what we call consciously, unconsciously competent, right? And that's a term. They're consciously, unconsciously competent. These are your billionaires. These are your top level people. And this is what we're talking about right now. When you can future pace, and when you work on focus, when you work on visualization, but not resting on your past laurels, but actually focusing on your future visions, future pacing and moving forward, all of a sudden you train your mind to rest on future versus past. Not many people know that, my friends, and you're getting that today on a free podcast from one of the best athletes, one of the best geniuses on the field, and one of the best field generals in the world, right? And now he's taking that to coaching and to this company that we're developing called Warrior Woke, right? And where everybody can benefit with your children. Everybody can now start developing his mental, energetic, and emotional capabilities that's going to help them in every aspect of life. We're just using sport. But sport is just one vehicle where this helps you. LaVar, you want to jump in and say something about that?
Well, I think the interesting thing about the things that you're saying, especially that small fish or big fish in a small pond thing, when you come into college, they tell you to stand up, introduce yourself as a freshman, and say your awards. And so you start saying, I'm from Texas, All-American, yay, All-State, yay, such and such, 3-star, yay. Everybody, they're basically making fun of you. The reality of it is that everybody that's sitting there making fun of you has to stand up and say those same accolades and say those same awards. And so now you're talking about year after year, class after class of All-Americans, 3-star, 4-star, 5-star, all states, all area, all everything, player of the year, player of the state, player, this, that, and the other. And then you start to realize that what's going to separate you is your belief. You know, your belief is ultimately going to be what, you know, in that moment when you start to hear and you understand the reason why you're being treated the way that you're being treated, it has to become a tremendous, undying emotional commitment to the belief that you have of what your capabilities are of excelling. It's either, and you know what's interesting, Rod? It's probably whatever you make it. If it's survival, then it better be a true belief of your survival. If it's to excel, then it better be a true commitment to excelling. If it's to be the best, then it better be a true commitment to being the best. You can't fake it. You can't fake it. You can't cheat it. You can't sneak by it. It doesn't work that way.
Can I throw a word in here? I love this. So think about it, guys. Listen to what he's saying. And let's translate it a little bit to our terminology. What LaVar just said to me is that you are exposed, you are vulnerable. And a person that can accept their vulnerability the fastest. Now think about that. If you can accept your vulnerability the faster I can step into my vulnerability and go, wait a minute, I'm nothing here. And I need to become something right now. While everybody else is going to try to again, what I start doing is I start listening and I start going, well, all these guys are great, but Texas is bigger. Or, well, you know, I come from where New England Patriots play down the street. There's got to be I start going to luck. I start going to religion. I start going to my state is bigger. I start looking for everything outside of me to justify why I'm going to be better versus going to what the environment is trying to do for you and say, you're not better.
You're
right?
trying to cope. It's a
You're trying to cope. That's right. It's a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
So if you listen to what LaVar said, why was LaVar able to excel very quickly in one of the best college football programs? It's because he got vulnerable very quickly. He goes, oh, I get it. They're making fun of us. Vulnerability. I'm no better than anybody else here because they all were All-Americans. Vulnerability. All of this significance, all of this stuff, now he gave it up. That's vulnerability. Vulnerability is power, my friends. So when you know you got to go to the next level, remember, the way to the warrior is through vulnerability. What do they do when you're supposed to become a warrior? In the past, you've seen stories like that. They give you a knife and they tell you to go out in the woods and come back in a week. That's vulnerability. That's how the Spartans to Africa, to the Indians, to every, and this is again, and this is more male and the fables and not fables, but in the stories and the traditions. But now it's with females as well. Same thing.
It's certainly
vulnerability. So we can't put you in the woods now with a knife, but you can do it to yourself. And you got to do it on the mental and the emotional and the energetic level. This is vulnerability lives there so that you don't have to have it on a physical level. Because I'm going to tell you, from health to everything else in your life, if you don't do it here, it ends up happening here somewhere. Mm-hmm. It ends up happening somewhere on a physical plane. And the physical plane is always a representation of what's going on inside, always. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted to, am I, again, I'm taking liberties here, but am I on to something here?
Listen, you can't just throw letters on a page and expect it to give you something readable, right? And what you're saying is basically taking the letters that are in your head that you've been taught and knowing how to put them together to spell out the words and make out the story. That's right. It's not an accident. You can't accidentally come up with what the sentence reads. And so it's 100%. If your mind isn't connected to your heart and to your actions, you have no idea what your actions are going to ultimately end up being. You don't know what's going, like you could be, that's where, to me, I think luck becomes a part of what you do, right? If something good happened to you and you really did not, from your mind, it did not resonate from your mind. You're just doing it. You're just, okay, I'm not really thinking my way through this. I'm not preparing for this mentally. I haven't prepared myself mentally, which is going to make everything else emotionally and physically fall into line. So whatever it is you go out there and you're doing, and you're just doing it, you don't really know what your result is going to be. See, for me, I played the game so many times in my mind before I got to a game that every single time that the opportunity presented itself to make that play that people see as memorable plays, I saw myself hitting Troy Aikman. And it might have not have necessarily happened exactly the way that it happened when it happened, but I saw it nonetheless. And what's interesting is my mind triggered my body, like, there it is, go. Don't miss it. Go, right? And you got to go. But if you haven't taken those letters and kept writing them out, here's the words, here, period. Here's the words, period, right? If you hadn't wrote them out, if you hadn't worked through it leading up to it, you don't really know what's going to happen. I get up against a guy like Tony Baselli, who's one of the greatest football players and offensive linemen to play the game. And if I did not play it out in my mind as many times as I did, this is what I'm going to do if this happens. This is what I'm going to do if he does this. This is what I'm going to do if he does that. When you get out there, you remember Mike Tyson said, everybody's got a plan until they get punched in the mouth, right? Well, when I ran into Tony Baselli, it was like running into a wall, right? Like, I hit him, and the way I had envisioned it didn't play out exactly the way that I had envisioned it. But with that being said, I had already gone through that in my mind. Wow. Like, okay, all right, I hit him, and he didn't go anywhere, right? So I have to get this big man moving. If he stays anchored, it's going to be a long day for you, VAR. Like, that's what I used to talk to myself during the game. Like, it's going to be a long day for you, VAR. Get his feet moving. All right, so get to the outside edge of him, move him upfield, then attack him. Don't just attack him down the center. Different things and then you know what? I ended up wearing his big ass out too. I wore him out, right? And you're talking about one of the greats. You have to have visualize. And first, you got to go a step before all of the visualization as well. And you have to want to do it. Right? Like, let's start right there, right? Before we get into all of the processes and the things that you have to do to execute and this, that, and no, and you got to want to do it. If somebody wants you to do it more than you, if you don't want that, if you don't want to accept what that challenge is, then you've already failed.
That's right.
You have already failed. So you got to first accept the challenge. You got to accept it. Like, I am here for a reason. I'm here for a purpose. I want to do it. And then everything came from that, because I'm going to find a way. I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to find a way. He's hard, but I'm going to move him around. He's got good hands, but I'm going to get to his hands. It's whatever it is, whatever it's going to take, I am going to break him down, and I'm going to have more success than failures during the course of this game with my matchups as it applies to anybody else I'm dealing with out there. It's just accepting the challenge.
Think about this. This is beautiful. In life, and I want you to hear the philosophy here. So in life, I run up against a potential obstacle. But I know I have a weapon, and my weapon is I have imagination. So This imagination tells me I can take a superior in my mind. I can walk into a situation where I think this person has a superior experience. I can break it down, and then I can visualize me overcoming that and actually change my belief about the situation as my mind and imagination is creating the synthetic experience. Hear us on what we're saying and send us a check. Make it out to LaVar Arrington, because you guys just got, and Rod Hairston, send it to both. We're going to create a joint account because I want you guys to hear this. I can take an obstacle, embrace the obstacle, embrace it, and actually be glad about it. In fact, you think about what he's saying. Now I'm looking for problems because I have a superior psychology. Mm-hmm. So I look for problems. What is a problem? It's an obstacle. It's in the way of my goal. I look for it, and then I use my mind now because I know I have infinite capability. I know that I have a mind that's infinite. Now, if you also listen to what LaVar said, you got to have the heart. Mm-hmm. The heart is the part that allows you to deal with the uncertainty, right? The heart is where the warrior lives. The heart is that part that says, listen, we're okay. You trust the brain. Trust the brain. If the brain tells you, if you did the work in your mind, the heart is going, you still got to make the step. You got to see if it's going to work. And the heart gives you that courage to take the first step. And then what's the third part of the brain? The gut. The gut is almost I like to call it the charisma, the style in which you do it. Because now I'm going to do it with confidence. I'm going to do it with a swag. And if you ever watched LaVar play the game, it was intelligence, it was courage, and it was swag, right? So you watch the great athletes, they're using the whole mind. What is the mind again? The brain, the heart, and the gut. Mm-hmm. The intelligence, the courage, and the confidence, the swag, to do it with a smile on your face, to do it with that person had guts. That's after confidence, my friend. That's doing it where I got the conviction. I'm carrying myself that way. This is how LaVar lives life, and this is what makes him. When we first met, he would come in, and that's how he would go into his business meetings, and he would intimidate a lot of people. And he said, "Rod, I'm sick of I'm the smartest man in the room, and I'm speaking. No. Let me finish. This is my version. You all right. He would say, I'm the smartest man in the room. I come in, I really want to add value to people. And a lot of these people end up intimidated. Or they don't, and what is it? Give me some feedback. I'm like, dude, you're doing the head, the heart, and the gut. Right up front. Right? And I just turn one of them off at the first meeting. Right? And I didn't use those terms, but when I saw him do that, and again, he'll challenge you, but he's doing it with head, heart, and gut, with swag, with a little smile, the eye contact, all of those three things. So in Warrior Woke, that's what we're going to teach. We're going to teach the head, the heart, and the gut. Everything that you talked about. Watch us, get your kids ready. This is going to be one of the most magnificent programs and bring it together. And we went out and found a person that did it. And now what we're doing is we're putting the technology, the psychology, and everything around it. So be looking for Warrior Woke. And in the meantime, come to Growth U. Yes, sir.
Growth U, Warrior Woke. Here's the coolest thing about Rod just saying. I did not have all of the technology and the innovation and the research backing the Navarro Bowmans, the Aaron Mavens, the Sean Merrimans. I did not have all of those resources in mentoring during those years, and yet the results were amazing. The results were amazing. So to have the ability to actually map it out in this way where I have not, to say that I walk into the meeting and it's perceived a certain type of way. It's been intimidation versus embracing. And so now to be in a situation where I've met the people from Growth U, and I've met the people that we're going to work together with, Warrior Woke, to have people who embrace it and understand it and want to break it down into a learnable system that's even earth moving for me. That's even earth moving for me, because now it's something that if you try to explain it, if I've tried to explain it, there's only certain people that can understand it. And so now to have it broken down in a way where it's universally understandable, it's universally edifiable, it's editable, it's just amazing to have that opportunity. So I had to throw that in there, because from my aspect, from my side of it, I've been able to see tremendous success from it as well. And to know that, to add this system to it, what those results could be, that's probably going to be more of a superhuman than what I've been able to mentor, and possibly what you've been able to coach and mentor to this point as well. I think it's like the perfect marriage. It's like lightning in a bottle, and in like a very real way. So super.
I love it, man. One of the things about LaVar is when we talk, we both get fired up, man, and beautiful things come out. When you're fortunate enough to meet people that can bring the best out of you like this, both ways, it's beautiful. So allow our love for the game, our love for the mental game, our love for the heart, our love for the gut, our love for the capability that we see in other people. When we get together, allow for that genius, because that combination of all of our experiences coming together is going to be just that. Allow for you and your beautiful mind to embrace that. Realize that if you're watching this, you attracted this, and you're here and you're listening for a reason. And and some of you, this is going to resonate so powerfully. And again, remember, you don't have to be in sports. It's about being a warrior. My whole life, I've done everything that LaVar is talking about. Not in the professional or the sports arena, but in the life arena. And I've done it. Same thing. So
That's the biggest one. That's the biggest one.
It's the biggest one.
That's the biggest one.
I found my younger big brother. That's what he is. He's younger, but he's a bigger dude. I love this guy. We're going to do some really beautiful things. You're going to see him in Growth U. You're going to see him and Warrior Woke. You're going to see something go internationally so beautiful, because it's blessed with the right intention. It's blessed with with from the heart, and it's blessed with amazing psychology. Any last things you want to leave the team with here, LaVar?
Just really excited. And again, just from the time we've met until now, the energy and the exchange and the wisdom that you impart hasn't been as amazing since being around my father. So to have that the influence that you've brought to the table is really really humbling and super inspiring, because obviously when you find like-minded people, and that's 100% where I'm at in my life, I got to be around like-minded people, and having the opportunity, as fate would have it, however you want to put it, us being brought together and having that fateful meeting where we end up being where we are today it just has me super excited, because I know the impact that this is going to have on a much larger group of people than what I've even been able to touch myself. And I'm just really, I'm super humbled by it and super excited to be a part of helping change lives. Success is truly a process. It's not luck. It's not by chance. success truly is something that you can learn and apply it and actually enjoy it. And so I'm happy to be a part of something like that.
And let's leave it. You heard that from one of the best and most genius athletes that we've ever had the opportunity to witness. You heard that. You heard that. That was for you. Guys, join us at growth-u.com. Be looking out for warriorwoke.com. We're going to awaken the warrior in all of you. I love you, LaVar. Thank you so much, man. This is the first of many. We're going to get down and deep and make sure you go and you practice. Remember, life and success is a process. And when you start loving to learn it, you take your life to the next level. Guys, until next time, thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you so much for catching this episode of the Growth Life Podcast. Join us at growth-u.com. That's growth-u.com.